Well, how you doing, Randy?
Well, I'm doing fine. Hey, did you get that report I sent you a little while ago?
It did. It dinged in. Thanks for sending it to me. I apologize. I had that other appointment. Yeah, I actually saw that. You were up the North Farm?
I was at the North Farm, and I thought I'd do a little sneaking around up there and looking at some stuff, and try to get in the field every few days or sometime to at least take a look at some stuff. So.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. Your previous reports tell me a lot, and I enjoy you doing that for
Yeah,
me.
so far I think everything's looking pretty good. I noticed there's a little bit of some, a few insects out there. We saw some Japanese beetles and things starting to show up and stuff, but really pollination's going well. The weather's kind of played in our favor, and I think things are looking good over most of the farm. So.
Yeah, that's pretty consistent, so I appreciate it this year.
It is. Yep. One thing I want to meet with you today on is basically I want to give you some recommendations. Basically, I'm going to call it a game plan for 2021.
For next year?
For next year already.
Well, tell me more.
Well, you're probably sitting there going, well, why would we talk about next year when we've got a long ways to go in this year yet?
Well, yeah, that's one question.
Part of what I try to do is as I'm out looking at these fields is not only thinking of how we continue to manage this field for this year, but what are we going to do for next year?
Okay.
So I'm kind of looking at fields. I've been looking at both your corn and bean fields as we've made plans for this year and everything's looking good. But what are we going to do for next year? So I guess I start thinking about those things already as we move into next year. Is how do we manage for next year and what do we look at? So with that, I kind of made a game plan here.
All right.
Basically, kind of looked at all the corn acres I've worked on so far. So you can kind of see that in right here. There's a basic game plan. I've got all the farms listed out, and I've already put a recommendation for hybrids on those farms
for next year.
For next year already.
Okay.
So they're just kind of tried to match up the hybrids with not only the soil types, but how you manage that. And we have a tool, it's called Illuminate. We've kind of talked about it before. That's what I'm using to send you the reports on too. There's basically an option there called Game Plan. And what that does is it helps us match up crops by soil, by management type, by genetics, by just how we're going to, how you're going to do things for next year. And it takes in past data from yields and all kinds of stuff. So we can use that to kind of put a plan together. Now what we do is we tweak this plan as we go throughout the rest of the year. But this gives us a great starting place for you to start thinking about 2021 already.
Well,
because I know that's what I'm doing. I'm already thinking ahead to 2021 to make sure we've got a good plan going.
So does that mean I have to buy today, or what are you talking about?
No, you don't have to buy today by any means. I mean, we're not quite at that point, but I think we want to make sure we're thinking about next year already. I mean, a lot of times when you're looking at this year's crop, it helps you think about what you're going to do next year. Maybe something we didn't do right, maybe what we did do right, Mike.
Okay.
But we can take that and kind of roll that into the next year and start making plans already.
So I see that some numbers here. I don't recognize the one. What do you got going? Is that, I assume, a new number?
Yep, a new one. 10D21 is one I've put in there. And a matter of fact, I pulled you a tech sheet on that as well too.
Okay.
Wanted to introduce that to you. It's a new 110-day hybrid. We've been planting 0986 for the last couple of years, and that's really worked really well on your heavy ground. The standability's been great. 10D21 is kind of in that same vein. It works well on your good soils. It's got great yield potential to it. Standability's great on it as well, and I think it's got even more flexibility on the acres out there than what even 0986 has.
Okay.
So it's a great new number. Take a look at that tech sheet that's there. I mean, you can kind of look at the numbers on it. One of the things that really kind of stood out for me was the early seedling vigor, the emergence on it too.
Yep.
You like to plant early, Mike.
I know.
And I think that's one that we can probably take out there and run with confidence next spring as well. Especially as you start, running a little bit of the corn on corn acres versus the corn on bean acres. Gives you a chance to get started maybe even earlier there with a hybrid like this.
Well, then it looks like the rates, you can crank that up pretty high if you want to get that yield.
It is. It's a lot like 0986 in the fact that you like to push those populations, and with that, it drives yield as well with it too. So.
All right. So tell me about the beans. What are you thinking on that? Because I'm a 50-50 rotation.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Current beans, I think, look good in the field. Weed control's good. They're growing. A little shorter than last year, it seems like, out there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's an issue with yield or anything.
No.
It's all about putting pods on the nodes is what we're about. So, but those look good. I'm thinking we need to have a conversation going into it on beans. Do you want to go extends versus enlist? We have a great lineup of both of those. It depends on weed control and what you want to do. But we have enough varieties that we can match up with whatever you want to do out in the acres as well too. So
we can think about that down the road. This gives me something to digest here, so I appreciate that. So I'll continue to work with this, and as we're making field visits, you can continue to align that with the messaging.
I will, and I'm going to continue to look at the crop throughout the year. And like I said, this helps me to kind of looking at what you're doing out here this year to make decisions for next year.
Okay.
But one thing we have coming up down the road is it seems like it's pretty green yet right now.
Yep.
Harvest to be just right around the corner again. And so the other thing we're going to do as we get closer to harvest, we're going to kind of keep looking at these hybrids to make sure that we get a good harvest schedule for you. Most of the stuff is standing well. It looks good right now, but there's always some issues at the end of the season that sometimes one isn't standing quite as well as the other. I'm going to try to put a recommendation together. I'll use our Illuminate tool as well too to do that, to kind of give you a recommendation for a harvest schedule as well too, and then see how that matches up with how it fits in the plan of going in the bin and what's going to town as well too.
That's good. I appreciate that, Randy. Well, thanks for your information today.
All right,
Very
sounds
much appreciate
good.
it.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Thank
Thanks.
you.